I found my wife's second phone inside the vent above our bedroom closet at 2:13 in the morning, and the first notification I saw was from my best friend. It said, "He's asleep, isn't he?" For a few seconds, I just stood there, barefoot in the dark, holding this cheap little phone with my heart beating so hard I could hear it in my teeth, wondering when my marriage had become something that needed hiding places. My wife, Claire, and I had been married 11 years, and until that night, I would have told anyone we were tired but solid. The kind of couple that survived bills, miscarriages, layoffs, my father's funeral, and all the ordinary little storms that make you think love is less about passion and more about staying. She had been different for 3 months, though. Not different enough to accuse, just enough to make me feel crazy. She turned her screen down when I walked into rooms. She started taking walks after dinner, but came back smelling like cold air and some expensive cologne I didn't own. When I asked, she'd smile too quickly and say, "Mark, please don't become one of those husbands. I'm allowed to breathe without you auditing it." The vent only came loose because I was looking for the source of a rattling noise. That's the stupid part. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't playing detective. I was trying to fix the house we bought together. The house she once cried in because she said it finally felt like ours. Then the screwdriver slipped, the cover dropped, and that little black phone slid out wrapped in one of my old t-shirts. My hands went numb before I even unlocked it, because it didn't need a passcode. It opened straight to a message thread with my best friend Ryan, the man who stood beside me at our wedding and toasted us like he believed in us. I scrolled for maybe 30 seconds before I had to sit down on the closet floor. There were no graphic messages, nothing I could hide behind by calling it just flirting. It was worse because it was familiar. "He suspects something. Don't let him touch your phone. Tell him your sister called. I miss who you are when he isn't around." My throat closed on that one. I could hear Claire breathing in bed 20 feet away, peaceful, soft, like she hadn't built a second life inside my own walls. Then another message came in from Ryan. "Delete the garage camera clip before morning." That was when the room tilted. The garage camera was mine. I installed it after someone stole a package last winter. Claire had complained about it for weeks, calling it paranoid, calling it ugly, calling it one more way men turn homes into prisons. I opened the security app with shaking fingers and saw the camera had been offline for exactly 47 minutes earlier that night. Not broken, manually disabled. When I walked back into the bedroom, she was awake, sitting up with the blanket pulled to her chest, staring at the phone in my hand like she had already decided which version of the truth she was going to murder first.
"What is that?"
she whispered. I said, "You tell me." Her face changed so fast it scared me. Sleepy confusion became insulted outrage, and she swung her legs off the bed like I had violated her. "Are you serious right now? You're digging through vents at 2 in the morning? Do you hear yourself?" I laughed, but it came out broken. "Ryan just texted you, Claire." She blinked once, then said, "Ryan? My God, Mark, that's not what you think. He's been helping me plan something for you." I held up the screen and read, "He's asleep, isn't he?" Her mouth tightened. "Because we were talking about your birthday. You ruin everything by needing control." I wanted to believe her so badly that for 1 weak second, I almost did. Then the phone buzzed again in my hand. This time it wasn't Ryan. It was a blocked number with one message, and Claire lunged for it so violently she knocked the lamp off the nightstand. The screen lit up between us on the floor, cracked but readable, and the message said, "Your husband doesn't know the hotel wasn't for Ryan." The message sat there glowing on the cracked screen, while Claire stared at it like the words had physically crawled out from under our bed. For one insane second, I thought she might tell the truth, because there was nowhere left to hide. But instead, she reached for the phone again and hissed, "Give it to me, Mark, before you make this worse than it already is." That sentence broke something clean inside me, because she wasn't frightened of losing me, she was frightened of losing control of the story. I stepped back, my heel catching the edge of the rug, and said, "Who was at the hotel if it wasn't Ryan?" She shook her head so slowly, so disappointed, like I had failed an exam she had never told me I was taking. You are unraveling over fragments. Do you understand how dangerous that is? You find a phone, you see names, and suddenly I'm some monster? I asked her again, and that was when she smiled. Not a warm smile, not even a nervous one, but that small, private smile I used to mistake for confidence. Fine, she said, wrapping her robe around herself. You want a confession? Ryan knew I was unhappy. That's it. He listened when you stopped listening. I felt my face burn. He helped you hide a phone in our closet, she snapped. Because you don't know how to hear anything without turning it into a courtroom. Then she softened, and somehow that was worse. She came closer and put her hand on my arm. The same hand that used to calm me during panic attacks after Dad died. Baby, please. I was lonely. I was confused. I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at her hand and said, Don't touch me while you're lying. Her eyes went flat. There he is, the victim. I wondered when he'd show up. I went downstairs because I needed distance from her perfume, from the bed, from the shape of our life pretending nothing had happened. She followed me, still talking, now using the voice she used with customer service people when she wanted them to feel unreasonable for denying her. Ryan is your friend, yes, but he became mine too. You don't own every relationship around you. I opened the garage camera settings on my phone and found the login history. Someone had accessed it from a device named Claire iPad at 11:38 p.m. The same iPad she told me she left at work. I turned the screen toward her. You disabled it. She didn't even glance down. I turned it off because I needed privacy in my own home. I said, In the garage? Her jaw clenched. I went out there to cry, Mark. Congratulations, you caught me being miserable. Then I remembered the blocked number. I clicked it. There was no saved contact, but the thread had older messages. Not many, just enough to make my stomach crawl. She told him Ryan is the problem. Good. Keep him focused there. He trusts Ryan too much to see the rest. I read those lines twice before they made sense. Ryan wasn't the secret. Ryan was the distraction. Claire saw my face change, and suddenly all her cruelty drained into panic. Mark, she said, softer than before. Don't. I looked up at her and whispered, Who is this? She backed toward the kitchen island. You're going to ruin everything because you can't stop digging. Right then, the second phone rang in my hand, loud and shrill in our silent kitchen, and the blocked caller ID changed for one split second before disappearing behind the incoming call screen. It showed a name from my own family. The name flashed for barely a breath, but I saw it, and I wished I hadn't. Evan. My younger brother, the one I had covered for when he lost jobs, the one who slept on our couch after his divorce, the one who called Claire sis and brought cheap wine to Sunday dinners like he still belonged somewhere. I didn't answer the call. I couldn't. I just stood there with the phone vibrating in my hand while Claire whispered, Please don't do this. And for the first time all night, she sounded less like a cornered wife and more like a woman watching a bomb roll under the door. When the ringing stopped, a voicemail appeared. I pressed play before she could stop me. Evan's voice filled the kitchen, casual and low. Claire, call me back. Ryan just texted me. Mark found the phone. We need to stick to what we said. I don't remember crossing the room, but suddenly I was at the sink, gripping the counter so hard my wrists hurt. Claire kept saying my name, over and over, like repetition could drag me back into the version of myself she understood. Mark, listen to me. Evan was helping because he knows how emotional you get. He didn't do anything. Nobody did what you're imagining. I turned around slowly. Nobody did what I'm imagining? Then why does my brother need a story? She lifted her chin, and I saw the calculation return. Because your family handles you like glass. Everyone does. Your mother, Evan, Ryan, me. We all know one wrong word and you spiral. That was the cruelest thing she could have chosen. because she knew I hated needing people after my father died, knew how ashamed I was of those months when grief made me small. She weaponized my weakest year and aimed it at my chest. I called Evan from my own phone. He answered on the second ring, trying too hard to sound confused. "Hey man, everything okay?" I said, "Why are you calling my wife's hidden phone at 2 in the morning?" Silence. Not long, but long enough to tell me the truth had weight. Then he sighed like I was inconveniencing him. "Mark, just breathe. Claire called me earlier because she was scared you'd overreact." I laughed once. "You rehearsed that fast." He snapped, "You always think people are against you when they don't feed your paranoia." Claire watched me with wet eyes now, but the tears looked selected, like tools. Evan kept talking. "Ryan told me you found some messages, and before you blow up your whole life, you need to understand she came to us because she didn't feel safe emotionally." There it was, the phrase that made me the villain without anyone needing evidence. Then a new message came through from Ryan to the hidden phone. "Did Evan answer? Don't let Mark talk to Dana." Dana was Claire's sister, the one supposedly calling during those late walks, the one Claire claimed was falling apart after her breakup. I looked at Claire and said, "Give me Dana's number." She crossed her arms. "No. You are not dragging my sister into your breakdown." I used my phone and called Dana anyway. She answered groggy, annoyed, obviously asleep. "Mark, what's wrong?" I asked when she last talked to Claire at night. There was a pause. "I haven't talked to Claire after 9 in weeks. Why?" My knees almost gave out. Claire lunged forward, screaming, "Hang up the phone!" But Dana was already saying, "Mark, what happened? Is this about the hotel charge?" Dana's words landed like a glass breaking in another room, and Claire froze so completely, I knew she had forgotten her own sister knew something. I put the call on speaker and asked, "What hotel charge?" Dana went quiet, then said, "Claire called me last month, crying because she thought you'd see it on the card. She said it was for a surprise for you, some anniversary thing, and asked if I'd say I borrowed the card if you asked." I looked at Claire, and she was shaking her head at the phone, like Dana had betrayed some sacred oath. "Dana, stop," she said. Dana's voice changed immediately. "Claire, what did you do?" That was the first time all night someone asked the right question. Claire grabbed her coat off the chair and said, "I'm leaving before this becomes abusive." The word hit me like a slap. Abusive? I'm standing here asking why my wife has a burner phone with my best friend and my brother on it. She pointed at me, tears spilling now, but her voice was sharp enough to cut. "You trapped me in the kitchen. You stole my property. You're calling my family in the middle of the night, and tomorrow you'll tell everyone I'm the crazy one." I stepped away from the island just to give her space, and she smirked because she knew I had understood the threat. If I followed, I was controlling. If I shouted, I was unstable. If I stayed silent, she got the door. But she made one mistake. When she shoved the second phone into her coat pocket, it was still connected to my Bluetooth speaker because I had played Evan's voicemail. I heard the call connect from the hallway before she realized it. Ryan's voice came through the kitchen speaker, tense and breathless. "Claire, where are you?" She whispered, "Outside in 2 minutes. He knows about Evan." Ryan cursed softly. "Does he know about the account?" My blood went cold. Claire said, "No, but Dana opened her mouth about the hotel." Ryan replied, "Then stop talking and get to the car." I walked to the front window and saw headlights idling half a block down, lights off, engine running. A dark SUV I recognized from a dozen backyard barbecues. I opened the front door before she reached it. Cold air rushed in. Claire stopped inches from me, hair wild, face pale, still beautiful in a way that made me hate my own memory. "Move," she said. I whispered, "Ryan is outside." She swallowed. He came because I'm scared. I looked past her at the street. Scared women don't coordinate bank accounts. Her eyes flicked up. Too fast. Too obvious. I ran upstairs to our office while she shouted behind me, and I went straight to the filing cabinet where we kept our mortgage papers, passports, insurance documents, all the boring proof that our life existed. The folder with our home equity line was gone. So were my father's old savings bonds, the ones I had never cashed because touching them felt like burying him twice. Claire reached the office doorway, breathing hard. For 1 second, neither of us moved. Then she said very quietly, "You were never supposed to look tonight." I opened the desk drawer beneath the empty folders and found a printed receipt for a wire transfer, dated 3 days earlier, signed with my name. My signature stared back at me from the bottom of that wire receipt. Almost perfect, except for one tiny loop in the M that I never made. I held the paper under the desk lamp while Claire stood in the doorway, no longer crying, no longer pretending to be afraid, just watching me measure the shape of her lie. "What is this?" I asked. She leaned against the frame like she was tired of performing. "It's money, Mark, not a body." I looked at the amount and felt the room narrow around me. $48,000. Not enough to vanish forever, but enough to start over if someone had been planning to leave before the explosion. "You forged my name." She gave a small, bitter laugh. "Your name is on everything. Your name, your grief, your father, your perfect little martyr routine." I took what I was owed. I called the bank, but it was after hours, and the automated voice sounded obscene in my ear, too calm for a man whose life had just been looted by the woman sleeping beside him hours earlier. Claire stepped closer and lowered her voice. "Do you want to know why Ryan helped me? Because he saw you. He saw how you make love feel like a debt. Evan saw it too. Everyone sees it except you." I said, "You stole from me." She whispered, "I survived you." That one almost worked because it was so ugly, so confidently delivered, that for a second I wondered if I had become a monster without noticing. Then I remembered the hidden phone, the garage camera, the hotel, my brother's voicemail, and I knew this was how she built cages, by handing you the bars and calling them concern. The SUV outside honked once. Claire flinched. Not fear, impatience. I walked past her down the stairs, receipt in hand, and opened the door. Ryan got out of the driver's seat with both palms raised like I was holding a weapon. He looked exactly like himself, which made it worse. Same old hoodie, same tired face, same man who had eaten ribs on my deck and called me brother. "Mark," he said, "don't make this uglier." I stepped onto the porch. "How long?" He looked toward Claire behind me. "This isn't the time." I moved closer. "How long have you been helping my wife destroy my life?" His face hardened. "Maybe if you'd paid attention, she wouldn't have needed help." I saw then that he had practiced hating me. People do that when guilt needs somewhere to live. Then my phone rang. It was Evan. I answered because some stupid part of me still wanted my brother to choose me at the last possible second. He didn't. "Mark, listen," he said quickly. "Do not call the police yet. There are things you don't understand." I stared at Ryan standing by the SUV and said, "Like what?" Evan exhaled. "Like Dad knew." Everything stopped. Even Claire looked startled, and that was the first honest reaction I'd seen from her. Evan continued, voice cracking now. "Before he died, Dad changed things. He made me promise not to tell you unless Claire forced it." I gripped the phone harder. "What things?" Evan said, "The bonds weren't yours. They were part of a trust, and Claire has been trying to access it for months." Behind me, Claire whispered, "Evan, shut up." But my brother kept going. "Mark, the trust wasn't in your name. It was in your future child's." The words future child made no sense at first, like Evan had spoken in another language and expected me to bleed in English. Claire and I had no children. We had tried. We had lost. We had buried two tiny hopes in hospital rooms where nurses spoke softly and avoided eye contact. And eventually we stopped saying maybe, because maybe became too expensive to survive. I turned slowly toward Claire, and her face had gone empty in a way I had never seen before. Ryan looked down at the pavement. Evan was still talking in my ear, saying Dad had set up the trust after our second loss, saying he wanted us to have options, saying there were clauses, protections, medical funds, adoption funds, things I had been too broken to read after the funeral. I interrupted him and asked, "Why would Claire need access now?" Claire said, "Hang up." Not loud, not dramatic, just flat. Evan whispered, "Because she told me she was pregnant." I stopped breathing. The porch light buzzed above us, stupid and domestic, while my whole body went cold. I looked at my wife, and for one terrible second, I saw the woman I used to dream with, sitting on the bathroom floor with a test in her hand, both of us afraid to smile too early. Then Ryan shifted his weight beside the SUV, and the memory curdled. I said, "Are you pregnant?" Claire's mouth moved once with no sound. Ryan stepped forward. "Mark, don't do this out here." I turned on him so fast he froze. "Is it yours?" He recoiled as if I had insulted him, but he didn't say no. Claire finally spoke. "You don't get to ask that like you own me." I laughed, but there was no humor left in me. "You forged my signature to move money from a trust my dead father made for a child, and you're telling me I don't get to ask?" She wrapped her arms around herself. "I didn't know what else to do." Those were the first words that sounded close to truth. I asked, "Who is the father?" She looked at Ryan, then away. That look destroyed 11 years faster than any confession could have. Ryan swallowed. "It's complicated." I stepped off the porch toward him, and Claire shouted, "It might not be his!" The street went silent after that. Even the air felt embarrassed. Evan arrived 10 minutes later, because apparently everyone had been close enough to reach my house before sunrise except me, the husband standing in the wreckage. He pulled up behind Ryan's SUV and got out, looking like a man already regretting being born into this family. I walked to him and said, "Tell me everything." Claire shouted from the porch, "Don't you dare!" Evan looked at her and said, "You said it was Mark's. You swore." Ryan snapped, "Evan, shut up!" My brother's eyes filled with tears. "She came to me with paperwork, man. She said you were too grief-struck to handle the trust, that you'd refuse because it reminded you of the miscarriages. She said the baby was yours, and she needed the money before you sabotaged it." I turned back to Claire, but she was staring down the street at another set of headlights approaching slowly, and when I followed her gaze, I saw a silver sedan pull up behind Evan's car. Dana stepped out, holding a folder against her chest like evidence. Dana walked toward us in slippers and a coat thrown over pajamas, and I have never seen anyone look so furious and so heartbroken at the same time. Claire whispered, "Go home, Dana." But her sister ignored her and handed me the folder with shaking hands. "I should have given you this a month ago," Dana said. "She told me she was scared of you. She said if I showed you, you'd punish her." I opened it under the porch light. Inside were printed screenshots, hotel confirmations, bank emails, and one ultrasound appointment reminder with Claire's name on it. My eyes snagged on the date. The appointment was from 6 weeks earlier. The hotel receipt was from 8 weeks earlier. Ryan kept saying, "This is private," like privacy still existed after betrayal used my father's name as a key. Claire came down the steps slowly. "Dana, you don't understand what you're doing." Dana's voice cracked. "No, I understand now. You made me lie for you." Claire snapped. "I asked you to protect me." Dana shook her head. "You asked me to protect your story." Then she looked at me. "Mark, there's more." I hated those words by then. "There's more" had become the sound of another floor disappearing under my feet. Dana pointed to the last page. It was a screenshot of an email thread between Claire and a lawyer. The subject line was, "Separation timing and paternity concerns." I read just enough to understand. Claire had been asking whether money moved before a divorce filing could be considered marital. She had been asking whether a presumed father could be obligated before genetic testing. She had been building an exit while kissing me goodnight. I looked at Claire, and she finally dropped the mask completely. "Yes," she said, voice trembling with rage now. "I wanted out. I wanted out of your sad house, your dead father's shadow, your quiet punishments, your endless need to be the good man everyone pities." I whispered, "So you chose Ryan?" She looked at him, and her face twisted.
Ryan listened. Ryan looked almost proud until she added, "And Evan was useful." My brother flinched like she had struck him. There it was, the cruelty under pressure, clean and bright. She had not loved them either. She had arranged us all around her fear and called it survival. I asked again, "Who is the father?" Claire said nothing. Ryan said, "We don't know." Evan looked sick. Dana closed her eyes. Then Dana said, "Actually, she does know." Claire spun toward her. "Don't." Dana pulled out her phone. "You forgot you sent me the clinic portal screenshot when you were panicking." Claire lunged, but Ryan caught her arm, and she slapped him so hard the sound cracked across the yard. Dana turned the phone toward me. There was a message from Claire to her doctor, asking about paternity testing before birth, and beneath it, one line that made Ryan step backward, like the ground had opened. "If neither my husband nor Ryan is likely the father, can testing be done discreetly?" I stared at those words until they blurred. Claire's face crumpled, not with guilt, but with the rage of being seen. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Mark, we need to talk about your wife and the night your father died." Dana's phone was still in my hand when I looked up at Claire one last time. Nobody was shouting anymore. Ryan stood by the SUV with his head down. Evan looked like he wanted to disappear. Claire wiped her face, took a slow breath, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she stopped trying to argue. She looked exhausted, like every lie she had been carrying had finally become too heavy to hold. I asked quietly, "Just tell me the truth. All of it. No more stories." She closed her eyes for a few seconds before whispering, "Fine, you deserve that much." She admitted Ryan had never been the man she was secretly in love with. He had covered for her because she convinced him I had become emotionally unstable, and that she was afraid of how I would react if I discovered she wanted a divorce. Ryan believed her. He drove her to meetings, deleted camera footage, and helped hide the phone because he thought he was protecting a friend. Evan became involved later for the same reason. She told my brother I had become obsessed, controlling, and unpredictable after my father's death. She cried in front of him, showed him carefully selected text messages, and made him believe she needed help escaping me. Neither of them realized they were helping her build a completely different life. Then I asked the only question that still mattered. Who was the man at the hotel? Claire looked straight into my eyes and finally answered without hesitation. Leonard. The name hit me harder than I expected. Leonard, her former executive, the man she always described as a demanding but brilliant mentor, the one she insisted was nothing more than a business contact. She admitted the affair had started almost a year earlier during business trips. The late meetings, the hidden phone, the expensive perfume, the unexplained hotel charges, every strange moment suddenly fit together like pieces of a puzzle I never wanted to solve. I wanted both lives, she said through tears. I wanted the security you gave me and the excitement he gave me. Every time I decided to leave, I got scared. Every time I decided to stay, I felt trapped. So I kept lying because it was easier than choosing.
I stared at the woman I had loved for over a decade and realized she wasn't crying because she regretted betraying me. She was crying because every escape route had disappeared. The truth had finally caught her. Ryan walked toward me slowly. "Mark, I'm sorry. I never knew about Leonard. I thought she was just trying to leave an unhappy marriage. She played all of us." Evan stepped beside him with tears running down his face. "I should have called you instead of believing her. I'm your brother, and I failed you." I looked at both of them for a long moment before saying, "You didn't destroy my marriage. She did. But you helped her do it." Neither of them tried to defend themselves. The divorce was finalized months later. The financial investigation recovered most of the money she had transferred. Leonard ended the relationship almost immediately after everything became public, unwilling to risk his career and reputation. Ryan lost nearly every friendship he had because nobody could trust him anymore, even if he hadn't been the man Claire loved. Evan spent months trying to rebuild our relationship, and slowly, painfully, we began speaking again. Trust didn't return overnight, but unlike Claire, he accepted responsibility instead of inventing excuses. People keep asking me if the affair was the worst part. It wasn't. Affairs end. Lies eventually collapse. The hardest thing to accept was realizing that the woman sleeping beside me every night had been quietly rewriting reality until I no longer trusted my own instincts. She didn't just betray my marriage. She tried to convince me that my eyes, my memory, and my judgment were all broken. Looking back now, I don't think the worst night of my life was the night I found the hidden phone. The worst part was understanding that if the vent had never rattled, I probably would have spent years apologizing for problems I never created. That little noise inside the wall didn't destroy my marriage, it saved the rest of my life.